Hi, my name is Vicki Fairchild. Today I want to talk directly to parents about advocating for their children, advocating for the best services for their children. Now, what I am sharing is my opinion alone, and you don't have to take my word for it. But time and time again, I see parents make a mistake, and it hurts their relationships with professionals, and it ends up in sometimes hurting their child. And let me explain. If you were to talk to the parent of a general education student about the next year in school, they wouldn't talk about the goals. And you're like, goals? General education students don't have goals. Yes, they do. They have their standards. They have the curriculum that general education students are working on. Parents would not talk about that. They would talk about which teacher they wanted. And if you talked to them, they would share, what they've heard about various teachers and what services they want to get as far as the general education world goes. Now, what happens in the special education world, in the IEP, is we get bogged down, or parents can get bogged down, in the present levels and the goals. And they focus so much time on that, and they spend so much energy, sometimes negative energy, with professionals going back and forth about the present levels and the goals, that by the time they get to the services, which is what will really affect the child, the relationship is not in a good place. And oftentimes what happens is the school district, especially if it's a very intense IEP, the school district is done, the parents are done, and no one's willing to give. I want to share an example of this. I was working with a parent once who really wanted to have the perfect IEP document. Now, in my experience, a perfect IEP document does not necessarily translate into the best of services. Services are provided by people. And so this parent, every IEP took hours and hours and hours, and every line of the IEP was scrutinized, and every goal was scrutinized. And by the time you would get to the services, I watched as school district personnel would slowly become more and more unwilling to work with this parent and kind of dig in their heels. And so by the time we got to the meat, what was going to actually help the child, the direct services, no one was talking to each other. So I sat this parent down once, probably a little bold, and I said, look, you're fighting the wrong battle. The one thing that is going to help your child, the things that will help your child, because there were multiple services, is the amount of service and from whom the child is going to get the services from. I want you to try something for me. I want you to try this. I want you not to fight about the present levels. They just are writing what they see at school. It's going to be different than what you see at home. I want you to not fight about the goals. And I want you, when we get to the services, to see what will happen. And prior to that, we had talked about what she really wanted. What she really wanted maybe was an extra 30 minutes of speech, or this or that, or maybe she wanted a specific teacher. But what would happen in her IEP meetings is by the time they got to that point, everyone was exhausted and no one wanted to work with her. And she was really just trying to advocate for her child, but it was not creating a good team atmosphere. So she decided to listen. And she held her tongue. And I think the people were surprised, like she wasn't fighting with them. And she didn't fight with them on the present levels, and she didn't fight with them on the goals. And when it came time to talk about the services, they were actually able to talk about the services. And when she asks for, maybe a little more speech therapy here, or I'm not that happy with this program, is there any way I can look at another program? Everyone was much more willing to work with her. And while some out there might think, oh, that's wrong, that's wrong. I mean, human nature is what human nature is. And creating a team feeling comes from the educators and the parent. And just like those general education parents who aren't focusing on the state standards, they're going to get worked on. Those goals are going to get worked on. You have to be focused on what's really going to impact your child. And that's who's providing the services and for how long. So some of you might think this is rubbish, and that's fine. But I want you to give it a try. I want you to see what would happen if you really just looked at those services.